My mind is complicated, and my heart is crowded as well. Something is clearly blocking me, yet I cannot tell what it is. It feels as though something stands in my way, solid, heavy, undeniable, and still invisible. My emotions fluctuate more violently than before. Even that fluctuation has begun to exhaust me. My chest feels tight, as if it is being pressed down. There is a sensation of pain, a dull pressure that refuses to leave. I do not know the reason. I do not know what is doing this to me. I do not know what has tangled my thoughts so deeply, what has turned my inner state into this confusion, this dizziness. Even breathing feels difficult now. When I inhale, it feels as if something sharp pierces inside me. When I exhale, the same sensation remains, as though whatever is lodged there refuses to move. Each breath carries pain, and that pain drains my strength. I begin to wonder if this is the point where I should rest, if this is the moment I am supposed to stop. But the thought does not settle. Instead, fear rises immediately after it. If I stop here, it feels like everything will truly end. Not pause, not slow down, end, as if stopping would erase whatever is left of me. It feels like I need help. I can recognize that much, but there is nowhere I can actually receive it. No place that feels reachable. The world must contain people who would stand on my side. I know that logically, and yet the presence of enemies feels far stronger. They feel closer, more numerous, as if they could tighten their grip around my neck at any moment. That grip feels capable of consuming everything. My life, my will, my remaining strength, grinding it all down slowly. And still I have not fallen. No, I have not given up. It does not feel like time to give up yet. Because I have accomplished nothing. Because I have nothing to show. There were people who gave me belief. People who offered trust. People who extended love without asking for proof. I have not repaid any of it. So I endure. I endure because I must. I endure because stopping feels more dangerous than continuing. Every year feels like misfortune, not because there is such a thing as bad luck, but because every year feels the same. Every day feels the same. As long as I'm alive, regardless of my will, I will be wounded again, and I will wound someone else again. Not because I want to, but because that is how I have been shaped. This state, this pressure, this pain, this inability to breathe freely is not accidental. It is something that has been building for a long time. And this is only the beginning. Perhaps this is not mine alone. The thought does not arrive suddenly. It seeps in slowly, like moisture through cracks I did not know were there. Somewhere, there must be people who think like this. People whose minds are tangled, whose hearts are crowded, yet who walk through their days without drawing attention. I begin to notice them more clearly. Not because they stand out, but because they do not. They look fine. They sound normal. They do what is expected of them. They complete their tasks, respond when called, and disappear back into their routines. Inside, however, they are holding something heavy. They do not complain. They do not ask for help. They do not say they are struggling. They have learned that speaking does not always lead to relief, so they remain silent. The strange thing is that the ones who endure the most are often the quietest. They know what happens when you show weakness. They know how easily concern turns into judgment, how quickly understanding becomes inconvenience. So they swallow their words. They compress their emotions. They tell themselves the same sentences over and over. Everyone lives like this. This is just how adulthood is. This much pain is normal. I should be able to handle this. These words are not encouragement. They are restraints. They hold emotions in place, preventing them from spilling out, preventing them from being seen. We become skilled at functioning. We wake up, we move, we work, we respond, we fulfill obligations, even when we are breaking, even when we are empty. From the outside, this looks like strength. People call it responsibility. They call it resilience. But often it is nothing more than survival. And survival does not ask whether we are okay. It only asks whether we can keep going. Help rarely comes early. Because nothing appears wrong. Because the system only reacts to visible damage. By the time someone finally says, I can't do this anymore, too much has already collapsed inside. And so most people never say it. They keep going. Not because they believe things will improve, but because stopping feels more dangerous than continuing. Stopping feels like failure. Rest feels like surrender. Admitting pain feels like erasing everything that came before. So they endure. Day after day, they place their emotions behind their backs and walk forward with their will alone. Eventually, even pain becomes routine. Even suffocation becomes familiar. The body sends signals, but the mind treats them as obstacles to overcome. Another hurdle, another phase, another test. But maybe those signals were never meant to be conquered. Maybe they were meant to be noticed. As this thought takes shape, I feel something shift. The pressure in my chest, the confusion in my mind, the constant sense of being pushed forward without knowing why. These are not random. They are not personal failures. They are the accumulated weight of silence, of endurance, of choosing to survive without being seen. And that realization turns my attention inward. If so many of us are breaking in similar ways, then perhaps the form I have taken did not appear by accident. Perhaps the way I react, the way I protect myself, the way I move through people and situations, perhaps all of it, was shaped long before I noticed. And if that is true, then the question is no longer whether I am weak or strong. The question becomes, what did I have to become in order to survive this long? The answer to that does not come gently. It requires me to look directly at the shape I have taken. At some point, I became difficult to describe. Not clearly good, not clearly bad, not warm, yet not entirely cold. When someone comes close, I grow sharp. When they step away, I become silent. People call this a personality problem. They say I am complicated. But this was not born as personality. This is what remains after enduring for too long. I am like a hedgehog. When something approaches me too closely, my body reacts before my mind does. I raise my spines, not because I want to attack, but because experience taught me that being hurt unexpectedly hurts more than hurting first. The spines are not weapons. They are warnings. They say, do not come any closer. This is as far as you go. At the same time, I am like a turtle. I move slowly. I hesitate. I withdraw. I hide inside my shell. Not because I am lazy, not because I lack courage, but because I learned too early how heavy the cost of a single decision can be. One wrong step, one wrong trust, one wrong belief, and everything collapses. So I learned to delay. I learned to slow down. I learned that staying still can sometimes hurt less than moving forward. When these two instincts exist together, a strange form is created, sharp yet passive, defensive yet exposed, pushing others away while secretly longing to be understood. And that is when I finally see it clearly. I am the reason Symbok exists, a being made by merging a hedgehog and a turtle. This shape was not chosen. It was constructed. Each spine was formed by a moment when I was hurt without warning. Each layer of shell was built by a collapse I barely survived. I did not wake up one day and decide to become this way. I was shaped this way by repetition. Pain followed by defense. Collapse followed by retreat. Again and again. For a long time, this form kept me alive. It allowed me to stay standing. It allowed me to avoid complete destruction. But survival has a cost. The spines keep people away. Not just threats, but also warmth. The shell blocks impact, but it also blocks air. I am safe, but I am suffocating. I rarely get hurt deeply now, but I also rarely feel deeply. Nothing reaches me fully, because everything stops at the surface. People ask why I am distant, why I am guarded, why I never fully open up. They ask too late. They ask after the spines are already raised, after the shell is already closed. Symbok was never meant to live like this forever. It was an emergency form, a temporary structure. But I stayed in it too long, and now my body's telling me what my mind avoided admitting. This shape no longer fits. This way of surviving is no longer sustainable. I can feel it in my chest, in my breath, in the constant tension that never releases. Something inside me is saying that if I continue like this, I will not collapse dramatically. I will simply fade. And that thought terrifies me more than being hurt again. The problem is not knowing how to live without spines, how to stand without a shell. I have never practiced that version of myself. So here I am, no longer able to return to who I was, and not yet knowing how to become who I might be, suspended between defense and exhaustion. This is the turning point. Because once you understand why a form was created, you can no longer pretend that remaining inside it is harmless. What comes next cannot be explained yet, but it cannot be avoided. So this is where I stand. Not at recovery, not at resolution, just here, after the blocked breath, after the long silence of endurance. After understanding why I became what I am, this is not a story about healing. It is not a story about winning. It is a record, nothing more, of how far a person can bend themselves just to avoid disappearing. I no longer want to be strong. Strength has always come with a condition. Endure a little more. Hold on a little longer. Sacrifice yourself once again. I have done enough of that. I no longer want to endure. Too much has decayed inside me. While I was enduring quietly, too many things were left unattended because surviving came first. The world will keep speaking in familiar phrases. Everyone is struggling. This is just how life is. Just get through today. But I know the cost of those words. I know how many people were slowly damaged by them. I know how many learned to disappear inwardly while still showing up outwardly. If you are reading this, there is a chance you recognize yourself here. You function. You perform. You complete your days. And inside, something has been asking for help for a long time. This text does not rescue you. It does not lift you up. It does not tell you what to do next. It only says this clearly, without apology. There was a reason you became this way. Not because you were weak, not because you failed, but because you were trying to survive in a place that did not make survival gentle. Symbok is not a mistake. It is not a flaw. It is a form created under pressure. But no form meant for survival is meant to be permanent. This pain is not punishment. It is not proof of failure. It is a signal that the way you have been living can no longer carry you forward. I do not know yet how to live without spines. I do not know how to stand without a shell, but I know this. I will no longer treat myself as something that must only be defended. Today, that is enough. Today, I choose not to disappear. Not dramatically, not quietly. I choose to remain. And for now, that choice alone is sufficient.